Hiya, pals! Welcome to the Mouse Bytes podcast! Let's go!
Hello, and welcome to Mouse Bytes, the show all about Disney video games, past and present. I'm your host, Clay, and today I am joined by my co-host, Jeph. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to our show.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this.
Yes, this will be exciting stuff, because this is indeed our first episode. In fact, this isn't even really an episode, so that's why it's getting the number 0 with it. This is episode 0. Yeah, spooky. I don't think I've ever been on an episode 0 before. This is my first one.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. It's exciting.
Yeah, I just thought, you know what, maybe we should just do a really quick episode and just kind of introduce ourselves, explain what we're trying to do with this show. That way, if you're new to our show, you can at least know who we are and kind of understand a little better what we're trying to do here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Sweet. Well, let's not waste too much time. Let's go ahead and let's start kind of maybe explaining to the listeners what this show is. Maybe you could kind of explain what games we'll be covering here and why these games.
Sure. Excuse me. So the premise of this show and what we are looking to cover is all Disney video games. And so we kind of talked a little bit about maybe just doing the older ones, the 8 and 16-bit ones. But I think we ultimately settled on if it's a Disney branded video game, we should try and cover it. I think initially we'll focus on sort of the older ones and the more Disney branded ones, like Mickey and Aladdin and things like that.
Right.
But we might branch out a little bit into the more abstract or original ones if they exist, and as we explore it, maybe get into the more modern Disney published ones that are like the new Star Wars games, stuff like that. I don't know, we'll kind of explore it as we go through it, but yeah, basically looking to cover the vast library of Disney Interactive and the like.
Yes, and that includes good or bad games. So.
Yeah, so pretty much anything. I mean, we're not going to just try and do the well-known, the Castle of Illusions or the Mickey Speedway USA's, which I know everybody knows and loves. Maybe not, but we do want to just cover all of them regardless. So we'll see. There's probably a lot more than we'll ever get to in the format that we're doing, but we'll give it a stab.
Yeah, I think it's smart not to limit ourselves and put up walls that we don't necessarily need to, just in case we do want to branch out. But I agree with what you said. I think there was a golden era of Disney games, back in those earlier eras, and so naturally that's where I want to kind of lean towards, but I think it'll be nice after we've been doing that for a while to maybe kind of look at something different, get away from those games for a little while, try something different. So I think that's a good plan. So I don't know. I think that's all we probably need to cover as far as what we're covering. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. For those of you listening, we do want to let you know this will probably be as far as we can tell, a monthly podcast. We won't be doing one per week or even every other week. It'll probably be once a month. We haven't really locked down if there's a specific day that we want to release every month. We'll try to figure that out as we go. But as far as we know, that's what we'll be kind of, limiting at the very minimum. That's how many we'll be doing. I did throw the option out there, and I'm kind of volunteering myself. I don't want to just rope you in, Jeph, but if I'm just chomping at the bit to talk about some Disney games, you would also have this option, but I might do some very short mini episodes in between our main episodes, I guess.
Okay.
So if I'm if I'm bored one day and here's Jungle Book for the Game Boy, I might throw it in and play it for an hour or two, and then just sit down and very quickly kind of give my thoughts on the game, maybe just like a little short review, 5 minutes or something, just to maybe kind of fill some of those gaps and have a little bit of extra content. And just because I would cover a game doesn't necessarily mean that we couldn't go back later and review it together on here on the show. So but I just thought we'd keep that option as well open in case we want to throw more, or if we want to eventually move to 2 weeks a month, we could, or whatever. So we're just trying to leave ourselves some free time here to play these games. And we both also are hosts of other shows, so there's we do have a lot going on. So, but we love Disney and we love video games, so we wanted to make this happen. But yeah, speaking of our shows, obviously I'm Clay with KingClay.com, and so for me, I'm host of Strictly 64, which is kind of our baby show, the main one, the one that started all, I guess. And we talk about N64 games on there. And so I'm on there. I'm also on the Logcast, which is a Rare fan site. And then I'm also on a newer podcast called Switch Talk, which is all about Nintendo Switch games. So, so I've got quite a few going on now, but I'm really excited about this one. So what about you, Jeph? What else are you hosting on?
Well, I'm not nearly as involved as you are with these, but I am also on the Logcast with you, and the focus on Rare, Platonic, some other companies that have offshot of Rare.
Yes.
Whatever the phrasing for that would be. Companies that have sprung off of Rare, from former employees, things like that. And then any properties like Killer Instinct or Donkey Kong that Rare kind of made famous or put on the map that have kind of been redone of late. There's the Iron Galaxy / Double Helix, Killer Instinct, and then the Retro Studios Donkey Kong. So it's just a Rare fan site. There wasn't too many around anymore. There's a couple that are still active, mostly just on like Twitter or Facebook a little bit, but none that we knew of that do like podcasts or anything like that. So just wanted to fill that gap in the band community. So that's pretty much it as far as my other podcasting duties. I've guest appeared on Kay and Clay on the Strictly 64 podcast that you do, and it'll be interesting to see what we decide to do when we do cover like the N64 Disney games, because obviously that will overlap. I don't know if we would just put the same episode for both, do a big one, or just record two separate ones. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We haven't even thought of that until right this second.
Well, luckily, I don't think we've covered any Disney games. Well, okay, we did do Bug's Life.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Just did that. But outside of Bug's Life, we haven't even done like the really good ones yet on N64. So, or the quality ones, I guess. So we got some time to figure that out. But that is an interesting premise. So, but yeah, I wanted to mention that we did meet through the Logcast. You were on there before I showed up. And I came on the team and was doing video stuff. Still am from time to time, and also joined on. That was like the first podcast I'd ever been on, was with you guys. And so Jeph has been a mentor and a fellow lover of quality podcasting. So it's always been fun to do this. And so I figured, hey, me and Jeph should do something together. What are things that we love that we could celebrate and talk about together? So I actually already had the idea for this podcast before I approached you, but I kind of allowed you to get to this idea. I kind of inceptioned your brain a little bit. It was like, well, maybe we could do something like, I don't know, you like Disney, right? Have you ever listened to Disney podcasts? And then eventually you're like, what about a Disney video game one? I was like, ooh, great idea.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I never would have thought of that.
Nice, dude.
Not to make you sound like an idiot. That's not what I'm getting at. But it was cool that it worked out that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I figured it'd be nice to do some other shows. What's something that Jeph would enjoy, and I know you have a busy life and you have a lot going on, and I do too, to be fair. So that's why we're trying not to put too much on our plate so that it becomes too demanding. And that's the other thing I want to mention is there are some very difficult games out there, especially in the older, Disney games, and
Yeah.
they're what I call blockbuster brutal.
Yeah.
Which is something I came up. I'm
I like that term.
trademarking it. Thank you. And so, and we'll explain someday what all that exactly means. But yeah, so I just don't want there to be any pressure, man, that you have to ever complete a game 100%. I don't know if I'll ever be able to beat, Lion King, without
Right.
trying to cheat, or I don't even know if there are cheats for that game. But
Yeah. At least a game genie.
right. And so, yeah, so I just don't. I just want the listeners to know that we're not guaranteeing that we're gonna have played all these games 100%. So
Yeah.
we're not the biggest professionals in this area. So we're just two guys that love Disney and love video games and love when those come together. So
Yep.
I just figured I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, I think ideally we just kind of want to get a feel for them, and you can judge a lot by the first few levels or worlds. And if they're really good and not too terribly hard, we'll try and get through them all the way. And
Yeah.
if we do, it's great. If not, these aren't like definitive reviews. Obviously, none of them are coming out with the game even. So, if it inspires you to pick up a copy, it's great. If it just kind of piques your interest and you want to look more into it, hopefully you learn something about one of these games that maybe you didn't know about, or learn of a game that you didn't know about, and just kind of want to use it as a platform to kind of celebrate all the different Disney licensed games that there are out there. Some made by third-party third-party studios, others published by third parties in conjunction with Disney, and then some made by third-party studios with animation by Disney themselves. So like lots of different combinations, and it'll be interesting to kind of break that all down as we go through it.
Definitely.
So
yeah, I'm excited for that.
As far as that goes, what kind of Disney games did you grow up playing?
All right, so I definitely played the 8-bit NES mostly. Yeah, Disney games. So I had DuckTales for NES and Game Boy, and then I played the Chippendales and Darkwing Duck I played. So I enjoy those. I like those. I'm not as what's the word? I'm not crazy about them, but that's not a negative thing. Like, I do enjoy them, but it wasn't until the 16-bit that I really kind of got more obsessed.
Yeah. I
still think those older games are quality, and there's a reason that so many people love them and cherish them, and so I still think they're great. But it was more when we hit 16-bit. I didn't own a Sega Genesis as a kid. I had a Super Nintendo.
Same.
But oddly, my grandma did have a Sega Genesis, and
wow.
she had Aladdin and Lion King, and so over there was where I got to play those. And so those were the versions. For whatever reason, I just never had them on Super Nintendo. So for me, one of the when I associate 16-bit, it's usually on the Genesis. There was only one game that I will only play on the Super Nintendo, and those are the some of the Mickey games that came out. Not the Illusion ones, the Capcom ones. But
yeah.
Anyway, so that whole genre and era of games that came out, and it goes out further than that. There's some Donald games and some of the movie ones, other than those two that I mentioned, that are okay. They're not as good, but so those are like the cream of the crop for me. And then I've played, other Disney games more recently. I was completely obsessed and hooked on Disney Infinity when it first came out.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And then I have the two sequels that followed, but I never got as excited as I did for the first one, but I still own a ton of the figures. I don't have them all, but still really enjoy those. I like Epic Mickey. I enjoyed those games. I haven't played the second one yet, but I own it.
Yeah, you gotta play that, dude.
I know. So
I wish the co-op was online, because that would be a fun one to do together.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. I don't
Dang.
know if there's a way to make that happen, emulator-wise or something, but
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. But
yeah. So I still enjoy Disney games. N64 era was okay. There was some that I really liked, but kind of after that, in the 360 or original Xbox era, those games, a lot of those I might have missed out on. So there could be some in there that I haven't hit that might be interesting to look into. But I I've watched all the Disney movies. I own all of the animated ones on VHS, a lot of them on Blu-ray. I have a Disney room in my house. It's our guest room, and it's just decked out in Disney stuff. So
I don't think I knew that.
Really?
Yeah, I knew you had the Donkey Kong basement or whatever, but I didn't know you had a Disney guest room.
Dude, I got. I'll send you a video at some point of the Disney room. But yeah, it's decked out, and it's got all of my Infinity figurines and a bunch of full size like Disney posters, and
nice,
pretty cool. Yeah, me and my wife did a good job on it. So yeah, so I would say I'm a pretty big Disney fan. Maybe not as big as you, but that's something we enjoy to joke about and go back and forth on. But I'm pretty sure you've got me beat, and I'll probably never admit that again. But just this once, I'll give it to you.
At least it's on record.
Yeah, you're gonna keep pulling it up for the rest of my life. But
right.
So what about you?
All right, kind of going through as far as what I grew up on and kind of what led me to here. Honestly, it's very strange. For as much as I love Disney, I really didn't grow up on Disney games. I didn't have any for my NES. I don't think I even had any for my SNES. My first one that I can recall is Mickey Speedway USA, which is by Rare, which, as we were talking about earlier, I do a Rare podcast. So Disney and Rare are like my two favorite things. So it just was like, holy crap, I have to get this game. Strangely, I mean, that game came out in 2000, so like I was already 14. But I had played other Disney games before that. So like when I was, I must have been like 6 or 7. My dad worked, he worked in the theater department at Washington State University, and the lady that he worked with had a Game Gear with one of the Mickey games, and I really couldn't even tell you which one it is.
There's a few for it.
Yeah.
So.
If I played it again, I might recognize it. But anyway, I used to play that whenever she'd let me, like if they were working and I was just at the office with my dad, like she would let me play her Game Gear, and it was awesome. So it was probably my first Disney game experience at all. I'm sure I must have played some other ones like at friends' houses and stuff, but nothing that really stands out, strangely enough. I did get Epic Mickey when that came out, and Epic Mickey 2, which was really cool. I got to meet the development team, or some of the development team of Epic Mickey 2, because they did a mini launch event at Downtown Disney at Walt Disney World in, what was that, 2012. And
that's tight.
Yeah, I was actually working at Magic Kingdom at the time, so it was kind of cool to like kind of talk with them about, because they love the parks. There's a lot of references to the parks, like the whole hub of the world is Main Street, which is based on Main Street. So it was kind of cool. They were excited to meet me and talk about the parks, and I was excited to meet them and talk about the games and all that stuff. So
nice.
That was probably like my highlight of Disney games. Then the Disney Infinity games, I have all 3 of those as well, and several of the figurines.
It's too bad we can't play that online together anymore.
Yeah. God.
They murdered it, but
yeah.
I guess I didn't realize you had all 3 of them. Interesting.
Yeah, I do.
I guess we've never talked about that.
Exactly. That's like how I didn't know you had a Disney room. My entire apartment is like a giant Disney room. Like our kitchen is Mickey themed. It's red and black and yellow. Our bedroom is Peter Pan and princess themed, and our living room is like parks themed.
Nice.
So, I mean, we have a from Up, the painting of the what's the falls? Yeah. Damn, now I sound
Paradise?
Like yes, Paradise Falls. Now I sound like I'm not a Disney fan, but
yes,
yeah, we've got a
painting.
we've got a painting of Paradise Falls over our fireplace mantle, and different posters from different rides. Anyway, that was a long-winded answer, but that's kind of a little bit about my Disney fandom and Disney games history.
Yeah, dude, you freaking worked at Disney, so that's pretty legit. So all right, well, last thing we wanted to talk about before we get going, we get moving, is just real quickly, we kind of wanted to just briefly, honestly, this is more for ourselves, just go through, we finally kind of got on paper what we want to structure the episodes to be like. So real quickly, we're just going to go through that, and then we'll get out of here. So obviously, starting off, we're going to welcome everyone to our show, and then we're probably not going to do a whole lot of chit-chat, small talk. We might just jump right into the game that we're focusing on, that that episode, and I don't know if we mentioned this, one game a month, that's the one we're focusing on, and so I thought it would be great right off the bat just to explain what the game is to you, the listener, just in case there's any confusion, because there are so many games from back in the day. A lot of games have the word magical or illusion or magic.
Just Mickey.
Yeah, or the word Mickey in it.
Mickey is this. Yeah.
And there's that Donald game that doesn't even have the word Donald Duck in it. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No. Is it the ninja one or the
Hawaii
one?
It's the ninja one. Yeah,
okay.
Well, I think Quacker Shot is the...
Oh my god.
But yeah,
there's so many.
it's like Maui Mallard, I think is what it's called.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it might have Donald in the title, but it's usually like marketed as just like Maui Mallard or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, Cold Shadow. That's it. Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow is what it's called. And it doesn't even have Donald Duck in the title. So
yeah.
Anyway, back to what I was getting at. I think it's good up front just to be like, all right, so this was a game that came out for blank and blank systems, because usually they are cross-platform. Usually. And this one is the second in this series or whatever. And so just kind of explaining up front what we're talking about. It's a platformer or it's a kart racer. Just that way, as we're talking through the game, in case we're not getting specific enough, quick enough, you will at least know what we're talking about. Maybe kind of
paint a picture for the viewer, the listener.
Yes.
Maybe get some footage if we go so bold, but no promises on that.
Yeah, and I already did capture some footage for episode 1 if we want to do that. So we might do that for the YouTube version, have some. So we'll figure that out. But I figured up front that would be, kind of the first thing. Perfect. And then following that, we would just do some initial thoughts and prior experience. Maybe talk about what we thought of the game, like what we knew about it going in if we hadn't played it before. If we have played it before, like when did we first play it? How far back do we go with it? Yep. Just some very broad knee-jerk reactions kind of right out of the gate before we dig deeper. Go ahead and if you want, you can take the next part.
Sure. Yeah. So once we kind of get past the what the heck is it and our initial thoughts, we'll go into just a few categories of breaking down how to go over the game. I think a lot of, I don't know how to say this. I'm tripping over my words, but
you're fine.
It's very important to nail the look of a Disney game, to make it look right and to animate right, because Disney's so often about the quality of animation. And so just discussing that, and obviously like in the 8-bit days, some of the limitations and what they worked with and if they were successful or not, and as a retrospective and as like how it looked at the time, like if we can kind of take a step out of our current minds and do that. If it kind of holds up to its source material, if it's based on something like, let's say the Aladdin games, how well they look like the movie versus if they kind of just look like a pixelated mess. Maybe like DuckTales is a good example where it's like, they tried so hard, but there's only so much you can do on 8-bit. So stuff like that. And then even little things like the user interface, if the fonts look good or bad, or I know recently on A Bug's Life, you guys kind of slammed the use of this yellow font they used, which was dreadful. And that kills it. That's not quality Disney to me. So it's like things like that. We'll kind of just discuss that and the pros and cons of whatever. And then after that, we'll jump into the sound. So music is very important, but sound design is also just as important. Again, like the old Mickey cartoons had, the legendary sound effects that were kind of just copied by everybody. Looney Tunes copied it. Most modern slapstick cartoons use kind of like the woogas and the, just the clanks and bings and bangs and stuff like that. So we can kind of discuss that, and if they could replicate it on older hardware with the beeps and boops of a sound chip versus the modern games where they can actually get those real clips like Epic Mickey. So we can break that down. And then obviously the music, if it's original, if it's based on the melodies from the movies or the TV shows or whatever the source material is. I think it'd be kind of cool to just analyze and discuss that. And then kind of a very important thing is the gameplay, how the game controls, how it feels. And then like you mentioned earlier, the blockbuster brutality of it, whether it's something like The Lion King, the first couple levels of that are really hard, whereas and that might take younger kids. You'd think that is more geared at littler kids ish, but it might be a little too hardcore for them to get past like the third level. So we can kind of discuss that, difficulty curves and forgiveness and live systems and stuff like that. I can just tell you that episode 1 is gonna we're going to discuss that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we'll kind of lead that into the story or premise of the game, kind of what it is. Some of the games have a story, some of the games are based on a story, and some of them are, like you said, kart racers or whatever, where maybe there's not a story. I keep saying Mickey Speedway. That one has a story. I don't know about the Disney World go-kart racer for the PlayStation. I have no idea if it has a story or not. So we'll explore those things, discuss them, see if they vary from anything that's established and things like that. So
yeah.
Anything else we kind of stumble upon or just bring into it is open for discussion, but those are kind of the core 4 elements we're going to look at and hopefully get a good episode out.
Definitely. I'm excited. I think we're looking at these per more of the source material, whereas a lot of game podcasts, they don't really have that to look at, and so I think this will be interesting. Yeah, there's not a movie about Disney stars skateboarding together on the GameCube, but for a lot of these, they are based off movies or cartoons or whatnot. So it's cool to be able to look at them that way as well. So I think that'll be pretty cool.
Yep. No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited for this and where we can go and what kind of interesting discussion we can pull out of just some of the more crazy, ridiculous old school things, or maybe just the more obscure modern PS2 games that no one's ever heard of but were produced or put out in Japan only, stuff like that. Looking forward to it.
Me too. Well, we are getting close to recording our episode 1. We already have the game picked. We've both beat it. And so we've got pretty much everything ready to go for the show. We've got our artwork. We've got our intro music. So I think we're ticking the things off, all the boxes off here to get episode 1 out there to you guys. So stay tuned if you're listening to this before it's released. It should be coming shortly, and we'll see where we go from there. We haven't even picked out what we're doing for episode 2 yet, so we'll have to start looking in that direction next. So,
yep, and this should be fun.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, I think we're done. We just wanted to try to keep this as brief as possible. If you've listened this far, we really appreciate you listening and joining us on our first episode here. Which this isn't really it, but until then, we will be hosting all of our episodes and posting them on kayandclay.com, and that is spelled out, so KAYANDCLAY.com, kayandclay.com. And we're also Mouse Bytes. We have a Twitter account, which off the top of my head, I cannot seem to remember what it is. I think it was very similar to Mouse Bytes. Sorry, did I say Mouse Bytes just a second ago?
You did.
Okay. Yes, our Twitter handle is mouse_bytes.
Yes.
And it's BYTES. So we're on there. We haven't done a whole lot with it yet, but once we get rolling here, there will be lots more being posted on there. So you can hit us up on there. We will be posting these on iTunes and YouTube, so you can check out both there. Links for those will be on our website as well. So we appreciate you listening, and we look forward to what's to come. Until then, I'm Clay, he is Jeph, and we are out of here. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.